Hello everyone. Welcome to Azure Data Ninja Series web conference. My name is Navya and I'll be serving as your moderator for this entire series. Let me first give you all an introduction about Ninja Series. Ninja Series has two training modules. Module 1, Get Conversational Ready. The objective of this module is to create awareness about the platform capabilities via show and tell demos. Attending this course creates conversational intelligence on the subject. Module 2, Get Project Ready. This module is packed with a series of advanced topics that cover typical project scenarios or problem statements and known workarounds and solutions. At the end of the series, participants are given access to GitHub repo along with challenges to solve offline and with Q&A support from instructors. We are in Module 2, Day 1 and your trainer is Abdul Rasheed Feroz Khan. Feroz is an MVP and also Microsoft certified trainer. He is Azure Data Workload Specialist with more than 6 years of consulting experience. He is currently based in India and he'll be addressing the session for today. In case you are facing any audio or video issues during this webcast, please post your queries in Q&A panel. In case you have any technical questions, please feel free to ask those as well. Over to presenter now.
Hi all, welcome to the data series session on Microsoft Azure. I'm Feroz Khan here. I'm a Microsoft MVP on Azure, and this session, which is the deep dive on SQL migration, is going to speak a lot about planning your Azure migration journey towards the database platforms and the different sort of database migration services that we have. We will also be speaking more about the database flavors like your SQL, your NoSQL. So this is going to be a series of sessions that you have both on the SQL platforms and also on the NoSQL platforms. The key takeaway for this session will be about the data migration, which is set to be from the on-premise environment towards your cloud environment. We will be speaking about the tools which Microsoft Azure supports you, like your database migration assistant, your database migration service, which helps you to just migrate your database from the on-prem environment towards your cloud environment with a few clicks. Your DMA and your DMS, which is in short, right, your database migration assessment and your database migration service, in short, it is called as DMA and DMS. So these services are going to help you out to examine yourself about whether you can migrate your database from the on-prem to the cloud, or you need to work on any schema changes, the compatibility that you have to migrate from the on-prem to the cloud environment. And it also supports you in helping you to plan the strategies for hybrid cloud environment. So you can have your database which could be at cloud, and you can have your web application which can be running on your Windows Server machine. Still you can achieve migrating towards the cloud. So the key takeaway once again on the session objective is going to be about the learning phases that you have in the migration journey, the database migration tools that Microsoft Azure comes up with to make your journey to be much simple on migration. We'll be having a deep dive on creating an Azure SQL database, the elasticity that it supports, and the geo-replication pattern that we have in the SQL database. And we will also speak about how you can migrate your on-prem SQL environment towards your cloud environment, which is said to be your Azure SQL database. We'll be wrapping up with the session by the topic of Azure SQL Synapse, which is a hot trend, which is a recent announcement for the next trend of your data warehouse that you have from Microsoft Ignite 2019. So here we go with the migration journey. The database migration process as an overview comes with three major phases: your pre-migration, your migration, and your post-migration. The pre-migration is going to help you out on discovering the database that you have at the on-premise environment. Your pre-migration is all about like you're going to install a tool. You will be installing your database migration assistant at your on-prem environment, which has a SQL Server Management Studio, and that's going to explore about the database that is said to be at the on-premise. So let's say your on-premise is going to be SQL Server 2008. You're going to install the tool of your DMA. It's going to examine all the pre-migration strategies, which is said to be the database that you have at on-prem. So it's your responsibility to ensure that it can communicate with the on-premise server. The tool has to communicate with the on-premise server. Once when it communicates with the on-premise server, it helps you to assess the workloads, and it will also give you the recommendations which lets you to convert the schemas. You cannot just go from the on-premise environment. You cannot just go from the on-premise SQL Server 2008 towards your Azure SQL database. You need to work on the schema conversion, which can support you for the advanced version of the Azure SQL database which runs on cloud. So it's your responsibility, provided the recommendation pattern on the schema will be given by Microsoft Azure Database Migration tool. So once when the SS is over, once when the discover is all about like it's going to discover the database that you have in the on-premise environment. So once when the discover is over, you're going to move for SS. SS is going to be about the workloads. It's going to assess the workloads that you have at the on-prem environment, and it's going to set the recommendations for it. And when you're done with both of these things, you're going to move for converting. So convert is all about like it's going to be on your schema. Let's say, for example, your database migration can be on any flavors. It can be from a NoSQL towards a SQL database. It can be from a MongoDB towards an Azure SQL database on the cloud, right? The overall journey is to accelerate your database migration, right? The tool has to accelerate your database migration. So it might be homogeneous. Homogeneous in the sense it's about the same flavors of migration that you have. That's your SQL at on-prem and SQL on cloud. Or a NoSQL at on-prem and a NoSQL on cloud. Or it can be a heterogeneous one as well, which is said to be between a NoSQL and a SQL. Probably let's say it's a MongoDB and a SQL database which is said to be on the cloud. So the pre-migration is going to help you out with the recommendations on any of these patterns. It might be homogeneous migration, it might be heterogeneous migration. It's just going to discover the workloads, it's going to assess the workloads, the schema patterns, and it's going to come up with the conversion that you need to work on. The conversion is all going to be simple. It's going to tell you the recommendations, and it's your responsibility. You use SSMA, you use SSRS, you go with your Databricks, anything. You do the polybase, you do the conversion from the primary of what you have, that's your NoSQL or SQL, towards the target that you have. So once when you're done with these pre-migrations, I would wrap up once again. The pre-migration is all about like the tool is going to discover the database, the workloads, it's going to assess the workloads, it's going to give you the recommendation plan, and it's your responsibility that you're going to convert the schema. So once when this pre-migration is done, you're going to step towards the migration. Migration is all about like you're going to migrate the schema, you're going to migrate the data and the objects. Either you can say that I will first migrate the schema, I have worked on the schema conversion, I will migrate the schema, and then I will move my data and objects, or you can even do it at one stand. You can just say that I will migrate the schema, data and objects at just like one stand as such. So here you're going to migrate the source and the schema, which is said to be at the on-premise environment. You will select the target. You will also select the database, which is going to be on the cloud. So it can be any database. It can be your Azure SQL, or it can be your Cosmos DB that you have. Okay. So you're going to just select the target environment, and you're going to fix the recommendation pattern. So once when you come to the Azure migration journey, you can either say that it is going to be an online migration, or it is going to be an offline migration as such. For offline migrations from SQL Server towards your SQL database, let's say it can be a Azure SQL database, which is said to be a PaaS, or it can be even IaaS, like your SQL database managed instance. So you have two patterns. One is an online migration, and the other one is said to be your offline migration. When you migrate the database to Azure by using Azure Database Migration Service, you can do an offline migration, or you can even go up with an online migration. So with an offline migration, the application downtime starts when the migration starts. So it's just like you're going to shut down the application and you're going to migrate the application from your on-prem towards the cloud. So the downtime is said to be huge. The application's downtime starts when you click on the button saying that you're going to migrate from the on-prem towards the cloud. Whereas your online migration is going to be the downtime which is on a limited pattern. The downtime that is going to be there is said to be limited to cutover at the end of my migration. I would suggest you that you can just test an offline migration to determine whether the downtime is acceptable or not. And still, if you say that your downtime is not going to be acceptable on an offline migration, then you go with an online migration. The reason is that your online migration goes as a batch, whereas your offline migrations that you shut down the application, it's just going to be like a lift and shift of migrations that you do. There's no sort of data leakage that could happen at an offline migration. And an offline migration is a recommended pattern that Microsoft Azure comes up with. Once when you select the patterns that you have between an online or an offline, you're just going to move for the data synchronization. The data synchronization is where you're going to sync your target environment. You will say, as I told you before, either it's going to be only schema or it's going to be with schema and data as such. So you're going to say the target, and this is only relevant for the downtime that you're going to come up with the migrations. So for offline migrations from SQL Server to SQL Database Managed Instance, or the Azure Database Migration Service, that's your DMS, can create the backup files for you. Alternately, you can provide the latest full database backup in the SMB network that's going to share the service, and you will use the migration journey on your database. You don't need to depend on multiple backups, provided you just go with a single backup of media. You can just take up each backup on a separate backup file and you can start the migration when it's set to be an offline one. You need to note that you can use compressed backups as well to reduce the likelihood of experiencing potential issues with migrating the large backups. So managing the data sync, the cutover time, the failover time, it's all going to be at your hands. As an architect, you need to ensure that whether you're going to use an online migration or you're going to use an offline migration as such. At top of all these things, Microsoft does not just leave your hands once when the migration is done. Microsoft helps you to come up with a post-migration journey as well. The post-migration is all about like you're going to take up an action. Let's say, for example, what in case if someone is trying to do a SQL injection attack on your database? How Microsoft is going to ensure that the data is protected? So there we go with the recommended actions that it can be taken across, and it's an automated one. You just configure your SQL database, right, with your migration pattern. It can be like you say, I will configure advanced threat protection. You can say that you will come up with alerts. You can come up with actions to be taken using services like your logic apps. You have serverless functions, Azure, which is called as Azure Functions. So you can use any of these services which can take actions immediately and in an automated way when something goes wrong on the database. It might be on the database level or it might be on the server level that you have. And again, I would like to highlight it is irrespective of your service that you're going to use. It can be hybrid, it can be on Azure, it can be IaaS or PaaS, whatever. This helps you to come up with a performance test as well. So Microsoft Azure by default will rest to confirm the performance improvements that you have. You can even connect with a functional and performance test which is said to be with a machine learning. It can collect the data sets in real time and it can work on its own. So that's how the overall journey of your database migration works. And when you come across the question of why I need to go for database migration journey, there might be several reasons that you have. You could say that you have a latency on your application. You need to ensure that the application has to go with a faster in access. By any time your customer can come up, they can just say that I'm going to celebrate a flash sale day where there can be more number of IOPS, there can be more number of read and write units that happens on your database. So you need to ensure that all these things are on track, right? Or you could even come up saying that Microsoft Azure is no more going to support for the older versions of SQL Server, let's say SQL Server 2008. And there you're in a point where you have to migrate towards cloud, or you need to migrate towards a new version of Azure that you have. So these are like several reasons where you come across that you need to step towards the cloud environment as such. And once when you speak about the migration journey, you also have the application level of migration that you need to do. It's not always that you migrate your database, right? There are scenarios where you come with the application level of migration also has to be done as such. So when it is going to be your application level of migration, you need to ensure that your application is set to be compatible with the platforms which are available on Microsoft Azure. And definitely, yes, Microsoft Azure supports you for any flavor of platforms that you're going to be. I hope you guys know that the .NET Core 3 is said to be an open source one. Or you speak about any native platform of Microsoft. It might be ASP.NET application that you have. It might be a C# application that you're going to move it across. Or it can be even anything like your PHP or your Python application, anything. So it's just like you're going to move it towards, and you need to select whether it's going to be an Azure aware program of your PaaS or your IaaS. Let's make it simple, right? Are you going to move your web application, which is connected towards your SQL, towards your web app that is on Azure, or it's going to be as a IaaS service, that's your virtual machine or containers, anything like that? And still, when you speak about web app on Azure, you need to ensure that whether you're going to put it on a Docker environment or it's going to be just on a code environment that you have. I would here give you an highlight about the lift and shift of applications that you can see it on the screen. You have a tool called as application migration, which is said to be a app service migration. And this app service migration assistant will help you to migrate your applications from the on-premise towards the cloud environment. So your on-premise can be anything. It can be VMware, it can be Wintel, anywhere, any workload that's going to be run across. And you're just going to lift and shift your business applications. The LOB app, which I have mentioned here, is said to be the line of business applications that you're going to have. So as a data consultant on Azure, you need to ensure that both your web and your app data, right, your web tier and your data tier is going to be moved towards Azure environment. So for data, you have DMA, which we were discussing about, and for app, you have your app service migration assistant. So you would just go, you will say that you will install this tool on the VMware, or it's going to be on the Wintel, any on-prem environment that you have, and you're going to move your application from the on-prem towards the cloud environment. So your app layer, which is said to be on Windows Server, is here moved towards the Azure App Service. And the data layer that you have, that's your SQL Server, is moved towards MI on Azure. I would repeat it once again. You have major two tools. One is said to be App Service Migration Assistant, that's for your app service plan. And for your database migration, you have the DMA, that is your Database Migration Assistant. Here you have the quick walkthrough of the different flavors which supports you for migration. You can go with a migration which can be at on-premise, that's going to be with a SQL Server, or it can be an Oracle one. You can have a MySQL, you can have Postgre, you can even go with your MongoDB, that's your NoSQL one, or still Microsoft Azure supports you to move from your AWS cloud or from Google Cloud towards Microsoft Azure. And you can find the two tools which we are discussing right now. So you're going to use these two tools for the migration journey. And Azure is going to come up with the different flavors. And as a data consultant or as an architect, it's your responsibility to ensure that you'll be using any of these two tools. So you can just say that you're going to use app service with a SQL database, You also have something called as web app with MySQL. You have something like your Docker environment with your Cosmos DB, right? So it can be of anything. You need to ensure that you'll be using it. Here we go with a demo on migrating the SQL Server towards your Azure SQL database. I'll give you a quick walkthrough on both the things. One is going to be on the app service and also the other one which is going to be on the database layer. Here is a use case where CodeSizzler wants to migrate an on-premise SQL Server database towards an Azure SQL database. So you're going to be a data analyst. You need to migrate the on-premise SQL Server environment using your DMA towards your Azure SQL database. So your source is going to be a SQL Server, which is going to run with SSMS. And your destination is going to be your Azure SQL database one. The overall solution architecture is going to be something like this. You can assess your database, which I told you before, that's your pre-migration. You're going to prepare the fixes as well. That's your recommendation pattern. It might be a schema that you need to work on. You have to convert your schema. It can be a homogeneous migration or it can be even a heterogeneous migration. Here, the demo that we are going to work here for this use case is going to be homogeneous. So it's going to be like your SQL Server towards your Azure SQL database. And once when you fix all the schema conversion patterns, you're going to move for copying the database and you're going to migrate the database. DMS also goes with a hybrid mode. You can just establish either using Azure Portal or using PowerShell, anything. And you need to ensure that the port is opened up. It has to communicate. So you need to open up your port 443 and it has to communicate with the cloud environment. You'll be having a customer subscription over there as well. And you will be examining with your on-premise environment. Furthermore, here is going to be your online migration, how it works. You're going to provide the existing backup, which I already told you. You're going to come up with a DMS backup that's going to be uploaded towards your Azure storage account. You can find here. See, you're going to upload it towards Azure Blob Storage. You're going to initiate the DMS towards the managed instance. And you will provide the full backup restored and the transaction logs backup, which is going to continuously replicate the data until you have a cutover. So here, it's going to help you out on stopping the incoming traffic towards the source database, and it provides the tail log backup. You just have an initiate cutover in the DMS, and you're going to change the application connection strings. The application's traffic is going to be routed towards the new backup that you have in the database. The overall Azure migration is going to work on such a way that you can find it on the screen. It's open to all customers. You might be like Azure trainer, or you can just find the azure.com/AMP. You can go there, you can learn more about Azure migration. When it's going to be on IaaS, you will be using a service called Azure Migrate that comes with ASR, that's your Azure Site Recovery. So that tool also helps you out. And you can still come up with the technical skills to be built up using the link which we have given below. You can plan your migration, you can plan your architect, your sales point, right? And you can even find specialized partners where the tool supports inbuilt. It says that you can find your partners for migration. Let me go for the demo here. We'll be having a quick walkthrough. Let's go for the on-premise machine. So this is going to be my on-premise machine where you can find the SQL Server Management Studio, which has been installed here. I'll be working on two major things. One is your DMS, that's your DMA, and the other one is going to be your App Service Migration Assistant. So two things. One is your App Service Migration Assistant, and the second one is going to be your DMA. So for the App Service Migration Assistant, you can just examine your workloads, and again you can move it towards cloud. Workloads examining, right, and move it to cloud. So this is for app layer, and for the data layer again, assess your on-prem DB, and you can move towards cloud. Let me go with the demo one. So for the demo one, you can just have a quick walk here. You can just Google for a website which is said to be App Service Migration Assistant. So you can go for this website, appmigration.microsoft.com, right? You can find it here. It's appmigration.microsoft.com. And there you can just say, give a URL here. I will give a URL here as jumpstartninja.com. I will access this. Oh, let me try with a different browser. Just hold on. So here we are just going to assess it. Okay. For some reason your IE is not supporting for it. Can go for app migration. Let's check once again. It's jumpstartninja.com. Yes, fetching data about the site. Okay, we are not getting the data. Let's try. Let's try going up with a different browser. Yep. So you can go for the same URL, which is appmigration.microsoft.com. And here let's give the URL, which is jumpstartninja.com. So can you find this? You have the framework. Okay, you have the framework which is given here, which has been built across the hosting environment. So this is running a DigitalOcean. You have the web server on which it has been hosted across. So once when you examine all these things, you can say start migrating now. You need to download this tool. You can accept and download. And let's say if this is going to be your on-premise, the machine which I'm working now, if this is going to be on-premise, it can assess, it can discover, and it can move the application workloads. So meanwhile, as it gets downloaded, right, let me show you on a simple basis. Let's work on a demo, right, where I will put up a IIS page and I will show you how you can migrate that towards the cloud. So let's give up your add -Windows feature -name as web server. So this will install IIS for us. Okay, so the IIS has been installed. And now let's move towards the drive here. You can find the IIS. So can you find this? You have inetpub, right? And you have root You can find the file here, IAS chat. So now I am going to move with app service migration. Okay, you can find it here. We have a tool which has been downloaded. So let's install this tool for the first demo. All right, so here is the tool. You can go up here and you can do the SS, you can move your workloads. So choose a site. You can find your one site is found, right? The default IES site which we have. You can select that. Click on next. It's going to assess your site. So you get the reports here. Okay. You need to ensure that the port is opened up to communicate with the on-premise machine. So it could be port 80. If you're using a proxy with your IaaS on Linux machine, something like that, then it's going to be port 443. You need to ensure that all these traffic gateways are opened up. So once when you select all these things, the warnings and everything, right, you're going to examine these things. I told you, right, you can even find a partner here. So if you're not aware of how you're going to migrate your workloads, that's your app layer, from the on-prem towards the cloud or anything like that, then you need to find a partner where Microsoft helps you over there. So you'll be getting a Microsoft vendor partner who would be helping you on consulting and migrating the workloads which is going to be with the right pattern. Let's click on next to move this workload. You'll be having a device code. You're going to open this. You need to sign in with your Azure account there. Let's paste the code here. And I need to sign in with my Azure account. So let's say Azure Ninjas at CodeSizzler.info. So here we have signed in. We are going to close this window and here we go. So I have my subscription which I'm going to select here. Let's give a resource group. I'm going to give this resource group the name as Data Series Resource Group. And the site name is going to be MSFT Data Series. So it's Microsoft Data Series.azurewebsites.net. Let's create an app service plan. It can be on any of the data center region which is nearby to you. I will here select as Southeast Asia for me. I'm going to create an app service plan here. And here, if you need, you can put up a migration project. And if you need, you can also put up a database as well. In case if you're looking for a hybrid environment to be set up, you can just say hybrid. You need to ensure that the port is opened up again. Can you find this? 1433. And you need to give the on-premise database server connectivity. Let's skip this and I'll say migrate my application from the on-prem to the cloud. So here it validates and it's creating the site results you can find here, and then it will be publishing the site content towards a web app. So a web app will be created which is going to be MSFT data series .azurewebsites.net, and it's going to migrate towards the cloud. All right, so the website has been migrated. You can click on go to your website, and here you can find, see, I told you, right, MSFT data series.azurewebsites.net, and you have the IAS page here. You can even try going to your Azure portal, let's say portal.azure.com. So here, let's go for the tenant where you have this app service. And let's go to the resource group. You should find the resource group which we created. That's your data series. And there you have the MSFT data series with an app service plan. So this is exactly what which it has been created. Okay, you click on the app name, you can find the website which has been created. So that's about your app layer. You're going to migrate the app from the on-prem towards your cloud environment. And the next is going to be on the data layer. So for the data, you can just go with the tool which is said to be the SSMS. I will show you from the scratch. Okay. So you can find here, we're going to create a table. You can open up SSMS. Consider this is going to be on-prem. Okay. Let's open up SSMS. Yeah. So I'm going to connect with the on-prem. Let's say connect SQL VM. And here in the database, we're going to connect with the database here. Let's create a new database. I will say new database. It's going to be MSFT data DB. Okay. And here let's create the table. Okay, just a sample table as such. I'll say new query. And this one. Let's run it at Microsoft Data DB. I'll click on execute and the command has been completed successfully. You go to the tables, you can find the table which has been created. You can find the database objects here, person, okay? So that's exactly the one which we have created. Now this is the target, this is the exact overall scenario, right? Let me show you once again here. See, the overall point here is to migrate the environment, isn't it? You can find it here. Conteso, the use case that you saw. Conteso wants to migrate an on-premise, okay, from a SQL server. So let's go across and I would say that I need to migrate from the on-prem to the cloud. So this is on-prem and I have all the environment here ready. Let's go with the DMA tool. So if you want to download DMA, you can go, you can find this website. Okay, you can find it here. You have Database Migration Assistant. Once when you download the Database Migration Assistant, you'll be getting it like this. Okay, so this is your Database Migration Assistant. It comes with two things for your pre-migration and the migration that you're going to do. You click on new, you can find assessment. That's the very first basic thing. And the second thing is going to be migration. Assessment is where it discovers the database. It discovers all the database that you have in your on-prem environment. Let's say the project name is going to be demo MSFT, okay, data. The assessment type is going to be on the database engine. And the source, it's going to be on SQL Server. AWS RDS is something where if you want to call it from the AWS relational database service, then you'll be using it. Okay, so that's for cross-cloud connectivity. Let's go to the source server type. I will say SQL Server, and the target server type is going to be Azure SQL Database. You can even go with IaaS if you need. Let's say Azure SQL Database, and I'll click on Create. That's the assessment that we do. You can, here it's going to discover the database compatibility. It's going to check the featured party that it's going to have, okay, whether it's going to parrot or it's not supported. So that will be examined over here. You just click on next here and say you need to add the source. The source is going to be the server name. The server name that we have here is your SQL VM, if I'm not wrong, okay. So that's going to be with the Windows authentication. Let's say connect. Can you find here? You have a SQL server with two databases. Let me say I'll be migrating this MSFT data DB. Okay. And you can say add. We're going to add this and you say start the assessment. And here the assessment was in progress. You can find all the data over here. You have the SQL Server reporting service, which is not supported. Okay, you get the critical availability. So for supported features, there's nothing that you have. Unsupported features are two things. Azure SQL database does not support trace flags. Okay, so you need to go with a SQL database service tiers, which can come up with a better performance optimistic. So it should be like you have to come with a ops team which can support for more sort of elasticity. And here you can find, so that's about the flags, but still it's not saying that you cannot move it as such. You can move. Okay, you can upload towards the Azure Migrate and you can move it. You can check for the compatibility issues if there's any. So there's nothing as such. Okay, and now you're good to go. There's no compatibility issues that you have. You can also save the assessment, or you can export the assessment. You can just say export the assessment, keep it on my desktop. I'll say demo, and let's save it. You'll be getting it on a JSON file. You can find it here. Can you find this? So you get the assessment as a JSON file here. Once when we are done with these assessment things, the next process is about migration. So the migration is where you need to go. You have to say that what sort of migration you're going to do. Who is going to be your target environment? Is it going to be an Azure SQL database, or it's going to be a SQL database managed instance? Okay. So here we have already selected it's going to be Azure SQL database. You can find it here, right? So we are going to move it towards Azure SQL database, and you need to ensure the features. Let's first make sure that why we need to move towards Azure SQL database, right? This is not said to be with a hybrid connectivity. I just want my tables, the data objects, the schemas and everything to be moved towards a database. And the customer's requirement is Azure SQL database. Contessor wants to move the workload towards an Azure SQL database. So you can just go for creating a resource here, say create a resource and search for Azure SQL database. Can you find this here? You have SQL, you have SQL database. Okay, you can just say SQL database here and click on create. This is going to be your Azure SQL database. Let me help you to make sense. This will come up with a logical server, and you guys know you're going to select a subscription. You will put it on a resource group, which is like a folder for tagging purpose. You're going to tag all the resources together so that you can take the control over at one point. Let's select it here, and I would say data series resource group. DB name, it's going to be data MSFT DB. And server, I'm going to create a new logical server here. Let's say create new, and the server name will be Microsoft Data. Yeah, I have that. And a server login name, which is set to be demo user, and the password for the same. You need to remember this username and password. All right. And I've deployed this at Southeast Asia Data Center region. Let's click on OK. So here we are done. We have created a Microsoft database over here. Okay, Azure database. And now we will go with pooling. So the pooling is all about the elastic pooling that we do. Okay, you're going to pool the resource together. See, this is going to be much simple. Let's say that each and every database that you come across will that you create will come across with something called as DTUs, your database transaction units. So your DTUs can be anything. It's going to be like the data transfer units that you do, the read and the write that you're going to have on your database. So this database will tell you the number of concurrent users who can log in towards the database, the number of DB which can be accessed, read, written at a time. It's also going to speak about the elasticity, bandwidth, ops. Okay. So to withstand all these things, you will create something called as elastic pool. So a server will have a particular elastic pool which is going to distribute it across the databases. And let's say if DB0 is not going to use most of its database elasticity, then it's going to call the DTUs, okay, from the first database towards the second one. I would repeat it once again. If the database 1 is not going to utilize all of its DTUs, then the DB2 is, in case if the DB2 is going to be exhausted, it can pull the DTUs from the DB1. So that makes sense. Okay, that makes about the high availability. You can just say, yes, I'm going to configure elastic pool here, and let's configure the pool. Let's create a new pool here. I'll say click on create new to create a new elastic pool. Let's name it here as Azure SQL pool. I'll click on OK, and here you can configure the size of the database and the distributing capacity. Let's say basic. You can find it's going to come with 50 DTUs, okay, with the 4.8 GB at the max. And here you can distribute the database. So 5 DTUs, totally it's 50 DTUs, that is your 5 DTU for per database, okay. And so 5, it's going to be distributed across 10 database. I would repeat it once again. If DB1 is not going to use all the 5 DTUs, it can share the DTUs with DB2. Let's click on apply. I'll go for the networking here. You can see the connectivity method, whether you can get connected with a SQL database or not. Okay, so those things with your server connectivity, you can configure it over here. And next is about your additional settings. You go to your additional settings, you can say either if you have a data already as a backup, you can call it over here. You can even try uploading sample data. You have the database collation that was been given. Data security is about like you're going to add more sort of data security towards the actions that you have. You have something called as advanced threat protection. You can take actions when some SQL injection attack happens. Okay, so those things you can configure here. And tag is for identification purpose. You can just tag it saying that it's going to be data series workshop that you have. Anything, it's for your understanding, okay, to identify the resource. And finally, you say review with create. You're going to create the database. You can find the estimated cost plan. You can also generate, you can download the ARM templates which has been generated. I'll click on create to get it done. So let's check if the database has been created. Try refreshing this once. Yep, so the DB has been created. You can go to the resource. Okay, just click on home, go to the resource group, or you just click on the SQL database so that you can find the DB here. Subscriptions, refresh, come on. Yeah, we have it here. So you have a server which has been created. That's your MSFT data. Okay, you have the app service as well. Okay, it's still getting created with the database. Let's wait. All right. So now let's try refreshing this. Can you find this? You have the Elastic pool which has been created. You have the SQL database, and you also have the SQL server with app services which has been created. Let's go for the database. You can find the DB here. And now I'm going to connect for this server name. Can you find this? MSFT data. So one core thing that you need to do is that, see, let me show you, right? You go here and you say that I am going to connect with the database. It will still ask you go with the SQL Server authentication. Give the username and password. It will ask you to whitelist the IP address. So that's the level of firewall security that Microsoft Azure is going to give you up. Either you can sign in here and you can add the client IP address, or the other way that you can do is that you just go to your Azure portal, you say set server firewall and add the client IP address. So you're going to add it here, click on save to get it saved. And now you can try connecting it once again. Let me say connect, and there we go. Can you find this? So there's a database which is said to be data MSFTDB, and inside that you don't have any values. So the tables is said to be null there. Okay, you don't have any values over there. No database, no objects. Now let's go to the DMS. Okay, here, and I would say that we are going to migrate now. New migration. Okay, let's name the migration as migration 1, and it's going to be from the SQL Server, which is at on-prem, towards the database, which is said to be Azure SQL. As I told you earlier, you can either say that you're going to validate only your schema and migrate it, or you're going to migrate both your schema and data here. Let's say I need to do both the things, schema and data. Okay, and I'll click on create. You need to give the source server, that's your SQL VM. Let's say connect, and you can select the database which you're going to move it. Your target database. Okay, in case if you don't have a target database, you can even create it from here. And the authentication type is going to be SQL Server authentication. Trust the server certificate and click on connect. So now you can try migrating it. You have the database which has been already created. Click on next, and we are going to migrate the database here. There we go, and you say generate the SQL Server script. It's going to script the schema objects. So here we go with the schemas. Let's say deploy the schema here. That's executed, and now we are going to migrate the data. Start the data migration. The migration is complete now. You can just say delete the migration, and now let's go to the SQL Server. Okay, you go to your database inside this, click on SQL databases. You can find Microsoft database here, and there you can just log in to find the database. That's your yeah, you have something as query editor. Yep, over here. Let's log in. Okay, see, we have tables. You can find the table which was called from there. Okay. So the one which was here, right, from the on-prem, can you find this dbo.persons, which is at on-prem, is now there on the cloud. So you can try refreshing this. Let's say refresh and go to tables. See, we have dbo.persons, right? So that's how you migrate the database from the on-prem environment towards the cloud one. So here we have achieved the migration, which is said to be on both the app layer and the data layer. Okay, you have gone with your app service level of migrations and you have gone with the data service level of migrations. Your migrations are made much simpler in the way, right? You come up with the tools like your database migration service, or you come with the tools like your database, which is said to be on the app service layer as well. Okay, so all these things have been made much simpler that you do. I have again repeated, like you come with these migration paths which are said to be on your migration server, which is on SQL Server to Azure or anything like that. We normally go with migrations which are said to be migrating SQL Server to Azure SQL database. That's your single database which is said to be at offline. Or you even go with your migrating the SQL Server towards your Azure SQL database. That's your single database which is online. That's your offline and the online migrations that you do. You can try the same with the managed instance as well. You can go up with your relation database, which is said to be from the AWS environment. Okay, so all these things are supported together. I would like to recap once again that the integrated experience that you would be facing when you do this migration is that you're going to assess the database, you're going to come up with a database assessment. It can be a SQL Server database, it can be your on-prem, it can be even from AWS or Google Cloud, anything like that. You're going to come up with an assessment for that. You're going to examine the database. You will come up with either it's going to be SQL logins or it's going to be Windows Server logins, or you're going to do with the SSIS migrations. Once when you're done with all these things, you go with the assessment again. The assessment can be on two layers. One is for the app layer and the other one is going to be for the data layer. You can assess it and you can migrate it towards optimal service like your app service or your PaaS service like your Azure SQL database. You can still also go up with your migration patterns using the DMS tool, and you can go with your app service migration tool. So here we are going to discuss about the network topologies for database migrations on Azure. We have different network topologies that we'll be designing for the database migrations. And it's recommended that you need to understand the different architectures that you have to combine with the topologies. These are the various network topologies that Azure Database Migration Service can work to provide a comprehensive migration experience from on-premise SQL Server towards your Azure SQL database. And the one which you're seeing here is for the managed instance. It is for a hybrid cloud that comes under IaaS for your infrastructure as a service. You can use this topology if your Azure SQL database managed instance is connected to your on-premise network. This approach provides the most simplified network routing and it yields maximum data throughput during the migration. You can find you have a VNet which is getting established and you have a subnet which is specifically used for the DMS. You can also see that the network security group has been configured where you have to open up the ports to communicate with your environment. So you have the port numbers like 443, 53, 9354, 445 and 12,000. Let's say if you want to go with the security, you can also go with a NAT ruling to be done. And the requirement in this scenario is that let's say that you can go for this particular architecture if the Azure SQL database managed instance and the Azure database migration service instance are created in the same Azure VNet environment. Provided they will be using different subnets, you can find your one is a gateway subnet and the other one is the subnet which is used for DMS. The VNet that is used in this scenario is also connected to the on-premise network that you can find here. So we are using Express Route or you can use a VPN gateway to get connected towards your Azure environment. And there you will be configuring your firewall as such. Okay, you need to configure the firewall to communicate with between your on-premise and the cloud environment. The second network topology for the DMS that you have is where you have to put up your Azure SQL Database MI, which will be isolated from the on-premise network environment. You can use this network topology if your environment is, let's say your environment requires one or more of the following scenarios. I would say the first scenario is the Azure SQL Database managed instance is isolated from the on-premise connectivity, but your Azure Database Migration Service instance is connected to the on-premise network environment. I would repeat it, if the Azure Database, the SQL Database MI is isolated from the on-premise connectivity, but your Azure DMS instance is connected to the on-premise network, then you will use this particular model. You can also put up the RBAC policies, that is your role-based access policies which are in place, and you need to limit the users on accessing the same subscription that is hosting the Azure SQL Database managed instance. You can find the VNets which are used for the Azure SQL Database MI and the DMS are in different subscriptions over here. So the common requirement for this particular architecture is that the VNet that Azure DMS uses for this scenario must also be connected to the on-premise network. Either you can use VPN or you can even go with the express route to get connected with this. You can find we are using either express route or VPN. You can set up the VNet peering. Okay, you can do the network peering between the VNets used for Azure SQL DBMI and the DMS as well. The next architecture that you have is for the network topologies, which is going to be in your cloud to cloud migrations. So here we'll be sharing the virtual network environment. You can use this topology if the source SQL server is hosted in an Azure VM and it shares the same VNet and the SQL database MI and your Azure DMS as well. So if your VNet is going to use the same sort of networking, right? Let's say, for example, you're using 10.0.0/16 and it goes up to 10.0.0/22, something like that. So that's a VNet that you have. And if that is going to use the same network isolation addressing for DMS, for your MI, and for your Azure VM, then you can use this particular architecture. So there's no additional requirement that you need. You just need to configure your network security group, which comes with an inbound and an outbound rule. And followed by that, you have to put up your firewalls on the same. The next is the network topologies for the DMS, where you will go with the cloud to cloud migrations using your isolated VNet environment. Here there's a separate VNet which is used for MI, and there's another separate VNet which is used for DMS and the source. You can use this network topology if your environment requires one or more of the following scenarios. The Azure SQL Database MI is provisioned in an isolated VNet. You can find it here. It's a separate VNet. And let's say if your RBAC policies are in place and you need to limit the users to access the same subscription that is hosting the Azure SQL Database MI, then we will use this architecture. So you're going to put up a policy which comes with a role-based access control. One can be a owner, the other one can be a contributor, anything. The VNets used for Azure SQL Database managed instance and the Azure DMS are in different subscriptions over here. So you can find one is of a different subscription which is for DMS, and the other one which is for MI is also on a different subscription. The requirements for this particular architecture will be that you will set up VNet networking, you will set up a VNet networking peering. Between the VNet, you have one VNet over here for the MI and the other VNet that you have for DMS with the source. So you'll be using this particular one between the VNets used for the managed instance and for the Azure DMS. And there you're configuring the firewall. You have a firewall which is getting configured for open inbound ports, that's your 445, your SQL Server TCP port, and for the DMS you'll be using 1434. I will have a quick walkthrough on the port numbers that you need to make sense for both the inbound and the outbound configurations. The network security group which has been added for the DMS subnet can be seen here. You have an outbound traffic where you can add your ports, the same again 443, 53, 12,000, all these things. Here is a quick walkthrough which I was speaking about. You have the inbound security rules which can add it up. You can go to the name, you can put up the port, the protocol, your subnet and all these things. Okay, you need to put up a DMS subnet, and there you will give up the destination which you need to allow or you need to deny, anything like that. You can also find the reasons that I will be briefing you here, okay, for different outbound security rules. So if you want to manage the database, you'll just go up, you'll say port number 443 and port number 9354 with the protocol of TCP, and the source is going to be any, and the destination can also be any. So the reason where we will be using this particular porting number and the network security group is that you can have the management plane communication through the service bus and the Azure Blob Storage. So this can be used only if Microsoft peering is enabled. You may not need this rule if the peering is not enabled. The next security rule that you have here is for the management plane communication through your service bus and for the Azure Blob Storage. Again, you can give up the port number, that's your 12,000. It can be for the diagnostics. You will give up the source, which can be any, and the target also can be any. The protocol that you will be using here is for TCP. The next communication that we will be doing here is for SQL source server. So SQL server, as it known, it's always with 1433 that you have to open up. You will go with the destination towards your on-premise address space, and you have to connect to your DMS. So the reason for this rule is that you have your SQL Server connectivity, your source connectivity from the database migration service. Let's say in case if you are using site-to-site connectivity, then you no need to add this rule. The next outbound security rule is that you can just go up, you can put up your SQL Server named instance source that can be connected from the DMS. So you have the SQL Server named instance, which is 1434, the port number, and you have the protocol which is said to be UDP, and the source can be of any. You will also come up with a destination which is the on-premise address space, and you will be having the action as well over here. The next one that you have for the outbound security rule is your SMB. You will be using the SMB share with a port number of 445. And this network share will be used for DMS to store the database backup files for migrations towards your Azure SQL Database MI. You will also have the SQL Server on Azure VMs where you can use it. You can just go, let's say for example, if you're using site-to-site connectivity, then you no need of these rules. You can just put up the peering over there. The next sort of outbound security rule is where you'll be having the name. You just give up any sort of communications, and then that's an open port. Okay, anybody can communicate with that. Let me show you where you can add all these things. Okay, when you should first create a VNet when you put up an environment for a managed instance. So you can go up here for the Azure portal. So we have the Azure portal here. Let me go with a different account. Give me a moment. So here I would go for the subscription that we have. Let's say switch directory, CodeSizzler India Private Limited. And let's create a resource. Okay. I'll say create a resource. And let's say I need to put up a virtual network. Okay. So establish a VNet and click on create to get the VNet to be added up. You can give the naming here. Let me say the name is going to be CodeSizzler VNet, or let's say it's going to be MSFT VNet, and you can give the addressing here. Let's say 10.0.0/16. You can add the address space, which is IPv6. You have a subscription. and you can put up a resource group as well. So let's say I will make it as data series resource group, and the data center location. So this should be the same location where you're going to have your resource, say for example your MI or your DMS, anything like that. You can also add up a subnet here, let's say apps, and you can give the address range, and you can put up the DDoS protections. Okay, you can allocate the firewall and everything here. You will give up the service endpoints, you can give the firewall rule. Okay, it will create a public IP for you. Let's say create for this. I'll click on create. And here inside the VNet, we can create subnets. Okay. Let's go to the resource. And can you find this here? You have address space. Okay. And here you have subnets. So you can add subnets. One can be apps, the other one can be for data. You can just put it across. And here is the one which you were discussing about. You have network security group. Let me just click on OK for this. Okay, you're creating subnets. So consider the architecture which you were speaking across, right? You have two architectures. One, you can see it here. See, we were discussing about the different subnet levels that we have. Can you find this? You have different subnets, right? Subnet used for MI, subnet used for DMS, and that can have different network security groups. So here, you're creating different subnets, and you need to attach a network security group for that. So again, for that, you can go for the home. You can just say create a resource and give it as network security group. You can find it here. So say network security group, click on create. You can put it towards the same resource group. That's your data series, data resource group, or I'm sorry, data network security group at Southeast Asia. Tags, okay, and let's create this. So once when this resource is created, you can add the inbound and outbound security rules. Can you find this? You have inbound and outbound. So now consider the same architecture, the port number, whatever has been mentioned here, you need to make sure that it has been opened up. It's very simple. You can just go for, let's say for example, if it is for inbound security rule, you can go here, you can click on add, and you can add it over here. So as I told you, let's take up any one of a rule, right? See 1433, protocol is TCP. Okay, you need to make sure that all these things have been configured. Once when these things are done, you will go to the VNet. See, we have virtual networks here, and inside a VNet, which is MSFT VNet, you can attach your network security group. Okay, so you can go here, you can connect your network security groups. You have firewall security, and here you can do that. You can take actions. Okay, all these things can be done. The next core important thing for the hybrid connectivity on your DMS, right? For your DMS, for your managed instance, is that you need to go up with two major services which we were discussing. One is the express route, you can find it here, okay? And the other one is going to be your VPN. So you just go here, create a resource, and say we need to put up VPN, virtual private network gateway. So this is all how your database migration service works for a hybrid cloud environment. Once if you need to do the cleanup process, you can go to the resource group. If you want to delete each and everything, you can do it on your own. Or if you want to delete at one stand, you can just select it. Okay, see for example, I have this one. You can click on delete resource group. You can do the cleanup here. You can also find over here you have data series which we created. Let's delete that. All right. And for the pricing, you can go for azure.microsoft.com. Okay. Let it get loaded. Meanwhile, come back here, you can find the notification that it's getting deleted. Let's go for the pricing. I'll click on pricing here and you can find the pricing. You can click on the pricing calculator. Okay, click on the pricing calculator and you can find how much it's going to cost you for the MI, how much it will cost you for the migrations. Okay, all those things can be seen here. Let's say database. You can find it. Can you find this? Database migration service. You can click on view and see the data center. Let's say I'm going to move it for South India. Okay, with a premium tier. The instance that I'm going to use is for 4 virtual cores. One instance for, let's say, 10 hours. If you need support, you can add it up here. Okay, you can click on export and you will get a file to be downloaded. So this is the pricing plan. It's getting opened up. Let's wait. Yeah. So you can find it here. It's going to create an app service. It's going to create a Azure SQL database, VM, okay, your DMS service, and the support as well. So the costing plan has been given up over here. So for 10 hours, you'll be paying for monthly, it's going to cost you like 1,767 USDs. Furthermore, you can also find a few white papers. You can just go up here. You just say Azure Database Migration Service white paper. You can find it. So you have a quick walkthrough on the documentations, the migration tools. Okay, you can read the ebooks. So all these things have been given here where Microsoft supports you to make sure about how the database migration can be done. See, these are the different tools that we have. For SQL Server to Azure SQL Database, they give you a map, okay, map toolkit. That's for, again, you need to do like massive sort of migrations, then you'll be using this. You have different sort of tools that you can find it here. You have Azure Migrate, you have Cloud MIs, right? It's supported over here. So for each and everything, Microsoft gives you a clear picture for the business justification, okay, which tool can be used as such. Let's say even if it is from Oracle or something like that, you can use it over here. So you can migrate the workloads which can be from Oracle towards your Azure DB for PostgreSQL. The same from MongoDB, you can do it from Cosmos. You have relation database service which can be from AWS environment, you can move it towards Azure. You have Sybase which can be moved towards again Azure SQL or managed instance, anything like that. Microsoft has given a different strategy of landing up where you can go with the pre-migration phase, you have migration phase, you can examine the tool which can be used for validating the schema, the database assessment and everything. So you do the pre-migration phase here, you will do the migration phase, and again the post-migration has been given here. So a quick walkthrough on this link will help you to make sure about how you can do the migrations, okay, any sort of flavors, any different flavors that you have. Again, choosing your database migration path, you have few webinars which gets published by Microsoft. You can even follow that. So furthermore, we have another powerful service which is said to be your Azure SQL Synapse. We call it as Azure Synapse Analytics, which is formerly known as Azure SQL Data Warehouse. The Azure SQL Synapse is a limitless analytics service that brings together enterprise data warehousing and the big data analytics together. It gives you the freedom to query data on your terms using either serverless on demand or you can even go with a provisioned resource at scale. So let's first understand why do we need this Synapse, right? What is this Synapse Analytics? The Azure Synapse is a limitless analytics service. Okay, so it brings the world together with a unified experience just to ingest. You can find it on the screen, the entire architecture, right, for the business pattern. You can ingest, you can prepare, you can manage, and you can serve data for immediate BI and machine learning needs. Your Azure Synapse has 4 major components. One is your SQL Analytics. It's a complete T-SQL based analytics that's generally available. You go with a SQL pool or you go with a SQL on demand. On demand is something which is at preview now. Okay. You also have another tool which is said to be Spark. which is commonly known. It's a deeply integrated Apache Spark 1. You also have the data integration, which is said to be for the hybrid data integration model. You have Studio, which is unified user experience one. So to access the preview features, you just need to request to access. I will give you the link here. Okay. Wait. Let's go up with this notepad so that you can make sense. You just have to go. You need to sign up on this link. Okay, aka.ms/synapse preview. You will get it like this. You need to put up all these details, okay, to access your SQL Synapse. So the SQL Analytics, okay, your SQL Analytics and the SQL pool that you have in your Azure SQL Synapse is said to be the enterprise data warehousing feature. The SQL pool represents a collection of analytic resources that are being provisioned when using SQL Analytics. The size of SQL pool is determined by using the database house units that you would be having it. You can import the big data with simple polybase T-SQL queries, and then you can use the power of massive parallel processing architecture to run high performance analytics. As you integrate and analyze, SQL Analytics will become the single version of truth for your business needs that can be counted on for faster and more robust insights. The key component of the big data solution is what the architecture that you're seeing on the screen now. The SQL Synapse Analytics architecture is said to be much simpler, and it supports with MPP architecture components. Here it goes with the same sort of the round robin distributed tables that you would be using. Okay, you're going to create, you're going to read, and you're going to pass the data. So all those things are said to be the common factors. Whatever we were discussing from the SQL data warehouse, the older one, it is going to be the same that you would be using over here. Furthermore, you can also adopt it, okay, for the best practices for your reference and everything. Okay, you can put up a reference architecture, you can just go up to push your data in. Let's take up a scenario that an organization has a large OLTP dataset that is stored in SQL Server database at on-premise. The organization wants to use Azure Synapse to perform analytics using Power BI. So that's the architecture that you're seeing on the screen. This reference architecture is designed for one-time or on-demand jobs. If you need to move data on a continuing basis, let's say hourly basis or daily basis, something like that, we recommend using Azure Data Factory to define an automated workflow. So this is a reference architecture that you can find. It consists of the components like your data source, ingestion, data storage, analysis, and visualization. Data source is your SQL Server. The source data is located in a SQL Server database, which is said to be at on-premise. To simulate the on-premise environment, the deployment scripts for this architecture provisions a VM in Azure with SQL Server, which should be installed. So that's your on-premise network that you can see here. Ingestion and data storage is going to work either with a blob storage, or you can even use Synapse. Blob storage is a common factor that is known. That's the blob storage is used as a staging area to copy the data before loading it into Azure Synapse. And Azure Synapse is a distributed system which is designed to perform analytics on large data. It supports massive parallel processing, which makes it suitable for running high performance analytics. You can also go with analysis and reporting. So analysis and reporting is something where it uses Azure Analysis Service. It is a fully managed service. That's your Azure Analysis Service is a fully managed service that provides data modeling capabilities. You can use Azure Analysis Service to create a semantic model that user can just query. Analysis service is especially used in a BI dashboard scenario. So in this architecture, your analysis service reads data from the data warehouse to process the semantic model and efficiently serve the dashboard queries. It also supports elastic concurrency by scaling out replicas for faster query processing. Currently, the Azure Analysis Service supports tabular models, but not for multi-dimensional models. Tabular models uses relational modeling. It constructs tables and columns for you, whereas the multi-dimensional models uses OLAP. So that's going to be a OLAP modeling which constructs cubes, dimensions, and measures. It's not supported with Synapse on Azure Analysis Service. If you require multi-dimensional model to be used, you can use SQL Server Analysis Service. Finally, you have the Power BI, which is a visualization tool. It is a suite of business analytics tools to analyze data for business insights. And here in this architecture, it queries the semantic model which is stored in analysis service. You could also find something called as authentication. So the authentication is where it's going to come up with your Active Directory, that's your Azure AD environment. It authenticates users who are connected to the Azure Analysis Service server to the Power BI. Furthermore, you have data pipeline. I can just show you up here. You can find you will just go with the data pipeline, okay, which is going to export the data from your SQL server to the files, and you can examine the data from copying the files towards the Azure Blob Storage and everything. You can also try exporting the data from the SQL server as well. Let's go with a quick walkthrough, okay, on the Azure portal with a SQL Synapse one. So as a quick start here, we'll be creating and we'll be querying an Azure SQL data warehouse in the Azure portal. Let's go for creating a data warehouse. So here, let's say create a resource, and I will look for SQL data warehouse. Okay, see now it's called a SQL Synapse, right? So SQL Synapse. Yeah, SQL Synapse Analytics, okay, formerly known as SQL Data Warehouse. You can create it here. Click on Create. And here we are going to give up the subscription, resource group, data warehouse name. Let me say MSFT Data Ninjas. Server, let's say new server, MSFT Data 1. And it's going to be deployed at Southeast Asia. Allow the Azure services to access the server. And here is the performance level. See, let me brief you about the server. You can either select an existing server, or you can click on create a new server to create and configure a new server for your new database. The server name is something which is going to be globally unique name. Okay, the server admin login and the password which we gave. So your password must have 8 characters that you need to make sense about the formal validity. Okay, the location is your data center location. So once when you're done with the server, you're going to select the performance level. You need to specify the performance configuration for the data warehouse over here. You can either say you can go with Gen 2 or you can go with Gen 1 like that. Let me say for this demo, I will go with the Gen 2 and I will use the data warehouse with 100 units. You can try moving it up or you can try moving it down to make sure that how it works as such, okay, to just make sense. I will click on apply. And now once when these things are done, we are going to click on the next additional settings. So the additional settings is where you can add the backup if you have any data, or if you need to put up some sample data source, you can also do that. You have the SQL data warehouse collation as well that supports for the collation patterns by default. Next is for tagging. You can tag it for reference purpose, and finally you're going to create the data warehouse now. Let's click on create to get the data warehouse to be created. Once when the data warehouse is created, we'll be going with the same, where you're going to put up a server level of firewall rule, same like your SQL database. You can check the status here on the notification. Okay, so the resource has been created. You can click on go to resource here, and here we are going to create a server level firewall rule. The SQL data warehouse service creates a firewall at the server level. So this firewall prevents external applications and the tools from connecting to the server or any database on the server. To enable the connectivity, you need to go, you have to say that you will click on the server name, okay? You can add firewall rules that enables the connectivity for specific IP address. Let's just go up here, say show firewall settings and ensure that you will be adding the firewall over here. Click on add client IP address and click on save. So you get it to be upgraded. To add your client IP address to a new firewall rule, you will be doing this. Okay. You can now connect to the SQL Server and its data warehouse using this IP address. The connection works from the SSMS or any tool that you're going to use of your choice. Okay. Let me go here and I will show you how you can connect. You need to copy the server name. This is your server name. Okay, you can copy it and just say I need to connect. SQL Server authentication and give the password here. Can you find this here? Let me go with a quick one. Wait, let's minimize these things. Yeah, so here you can find this is going to be your data warehouse which we created. You can get the fully qualified server name over here. Once again, I would repeat it. You can get the fully qualified server name over here, and you can connect to the server. Once when you're connected to the server, you can just go up with the databases that you can find it here. See, you click on the database, you click on the one which is here, and you can find the tables, okay, which you have the external tables over there. We have not given anything, we just said none, so you don't have it anything over here. If you are given some samples or anything, then you can find it here, okay. Let's say I will try adding some samples. So if you want to put up some sample workloads, I will show you once again. You can create it. Azure SQL Synapse. SQL Synapse Analytics. Okay. Gen2. Let's say sample. Let's create it. Let's check for the deployment. Okay, so we need to wait. look for the creation. Still it's getting created. Okay. Well guys, so here you can find the server which has been created now. You can click on show firewall settings to add the IP address, okay, which is like same before. I need to do for this server now. Yeah, let's see, show firewall settings. No, not this one. Where's the other one? It's getting created. Okay, SQL data warehouse. Okay, let's wait. It's getting created here. Okay, so let's go for this to try connecting it. Okay, SQL data warehouse is running here. All right, we'll try connecting for this MSFT data one. So let's go to the database. You can find two things. Okay, one is the Microsoft Data SQL demo, and let's go to the tables. See, you can find the external tables with the data here. So now, after giving the fully qualified server name and everything, you can try running up your queries. So you have the database, right? You can see the my sample database, which can view the objects of the new database which has been created. You can try running some queries here. SQL Data Warehouse uses T-SQL as the query language to open a query window, and you can run some T-SQL queries over here. Okay, so you can just right click. Let's say for example, I right click here. Okay, my sample data warehouse, and I will select new query here. So here you can find a new query window opens. Okay, and you can say select star from, okay, system dot databases. So you can select these things, and you can try running it. Say execute, and you can find the data here. So you just click on execute. The query result shows two databases. One is the master and the other one is the Microsoft Data SQL demo. To look at some data, you can use the command. Let me write the command here, right? You can just say select last name and the first name as well from DBO customer, okay, where you would be having last name as and number of children at home, number of children at home equal to 3. So you run these things, okay, you say execute and you get the output here. See, it's executing the query and you get the value for the same. So that's how you create a sample data warehouse, okay, data analytics, and you can run it. You can also try parsing. Okay, you can try resuming your data warehouse and everything. So you can use the Azure portal, okay, or you can even use PowerShell to pass the compute in your Azure SQL data warehouse to save the cost. And resume compute is where when you're ready to use the data warehouse. You just go to the portal and you can, to save the cost, you can pass and resume compute resource on demand. Let's say, for example, if you don't want, like if you won't be using the database during the night and on weekends, you can pass it during these two times. And you can resume it during the day that you need. So you won't be charged for compute resource while the database is parsed. However, you will continue to be charged for a storage. So to do that, you just click the SQL database that you have here. You can find the parse here, right? You can just notice here. You have passed, you click on yes, and it gets passed. You can find the status here. It's getting passed. And resume is nothing but you just again click here. You just again click here, you will get resume. Okay, once when this is done. Furthermore, you also have the options of scaling. Scaling compute in Azure SQL data warehouse can be done on Azure portal, okay, for better performance or to scale the back computes to save the cost. You can scale a data warehouse which you already have, or you can even create a new one. Here I already have it, so I will go with this. So you click on the scale, you can scale the compute. The SQL data warehouse compute resource can be scaled by increasing or decreasing the data warehouse units. The previously created one, right? The data warehouse which we have created. So that's the one which you can find it here, which has been initialized with 100 WUs. Okay, you can find it here, 1000 C, right? The data warehouse units. So you can scale it over here. Either like you can just scale it by dragging this. Click on scale and you can do it. Okay. So that's about the scaling. And the workload management, you can just go up writing your T-SQL queries, okay, with your workload management. You can go with a SQL Server authentication login. See, I will say resume. Let me try refreshing this. Give me a moment. Yeah. So you have it here. You can go for your server name and click on the SQL database. Let's select any of the database that you have here. So you can here write the queries. You go to the query explorer, you say resume. You will get the explorer and there you can write the queries, okay, which can help you to create login for the CEO. You can create a workload classifier, okay, you can view the existing classifiers and finally you can clean up the resource. So that's about your SQL Synapse. So with this, we'll be going up with the next module. We'll be concluding this. Okay. So if you want to have a quick takeaway of the topics, you can follow the key migration references over here for the migration guide for your Azure Database Migration Service, your Database Migration Assistant, same for your SQL Server and the Database Experimentation Assistant as well. Your path to the cloud can be followed using the links which has been given here. You can just accelerate your cloud journey. You can simplify your cloud journey experiment. You can also get more metrics about the cost wise, the planning, the pricing that you're going to do, the cost management and the billing, etc. You can build and you can also deploy your reference architectures where we have the fast track for courses, okay, on Azure. You can simplify your architecture reference using the tools that Microsoft comes up with your, probably let's say the Azure DMA, you have App Service Migration Assistant and all these things. So please evaluate the session. Your feedback is much important to us. You can go to the website, you can get the feedback forms to be done. See you guys on the next session, which is said to be on Azure Cosmos DB. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to write us at the hackbox.in. Thank you.